Welcome to In the Know. The Pelicans are on another win streak. They've been going on win streaks and then losing a bunch of games, and then they win a couple, and then they lose a bunch of games, and it's been quite a roller coaster. But Herb Jones is back. They've changed the starting lineup. The Pelicans have a bunch of untouchables, but are also aggressively in the market for stars and are going to trade a lot of people. We're here to figure out what's going on, how it's happening, and just gonna have a good old time Sunday evening. Mason, Jeremy, how's it going? Welcome, fellas. How you doing?
Women and all that.
Speak on it. What do you speak on it?
I just saw a 6'6" bowling ball run through him and then end the game with the hottest center on NBA Twitter, Yves Missi, yamming it in his face to end the game. Yamming it on that French man's face. We won't see him anymore into 2026 season.
That was for the country of Cameroon and the colonization that took there by the French.
That's right.
All right. Mason, how's it going? How are you doing, man?
Good, man. Was parenting for the first half of that game, but I caught a roller coaster of a second half. I'll tell you that much. So, but that fourth quarter was fun stuff. I think like everyone else, we thought, all right, once we went down 5, like, yeah, this is classic Pelicans, and they're playing a really good team on the road, right? And they held strong. They closed out a hell of a game, mostly without the rookies on the floor, but they got the squad back and they look competent. So let's start there.
Competent is a great place to start because I think going into this season, that is all we asked for. That is all we asked for is, hey, please let there be a baseline level of competence with the organization, with the team, with the rotations, all of that. So the rookies have a stable environment to develop in. The Pelicans have a stable environment to evaluate what they actually need to do with the roster and which direction they need to go with the team. But better late than never, especially better before the trade deadline. Let's bring it back to the Grizzlies game. We'll talk about the lineup change that James Borrego made, and cover these last 2 games, speak on that, and then I think that'd be a great jumping point for us to get into the trade talks that are. I think again, I'm not stupid. I know all of y'all are here for the trade stuff, and we are going to get to it. But there's exciting things happening on the basketball court, and we love talking about what happens on the basketball court. So prior to playing the Grizzlies, Herb Jones was activated. He had been going through a couple practices. He was questionable the game prior to that against the Pistons. Didn't end up playing, but made the trip out to Memphis where they did play. The Pelicans made a change in the starting lineup. Instead of going with Fears, Trey, Zion, Bay, and Queen, they started Herb Jones and benched Jeremiah Fears. Off the top, want to get your guys' thoughts on that conceptually and philosophically.
Go ahead, Mason.
No, I mean, we've talked about it a while. Schmidt, you've been banging the drum on how basically this team can't defend with a couple rookies out there. Obviously, Herb Jones not being available also compounds the issue, right? But I think I'm certainly open to that move happening. I think having it happen before Jose came back, that would seem like the obvious change to make was to bring Jose into the starting lineup, but that's not what they did. And so I thought that was I didn't see it coming, but also I think it was a necessary change, and it's a fun group starting out there. I mean, a lot of questions around, can that group sustain offense against good defenses and without a true kind of floor general out there? You got to play team basketball. A lot of guys sharing the rock like Trey Murphy did tonight. I know we're starting with Memphis, but I mean, let's get weird, right? We talked. I think we said that a lot of times with this team, but let's. I'm all about it.
Well, you talk about sharing the basketball. Another thing this lineup has not done is turn the ball over. Sadiq Bey and Trey Murphy in particular have a combined total of 2 turnovers, despite playing 74 minutes for Trey and 65 minutes for Sadiq. And they're ending possessions with a quality shot Even if it's a miss, they can get back on defense. They can get back and not be caught in transition. And they're just picking up the easy stuff, getting rebounds, getting extra possessions. Submit talked about it on social media, how they are winning the possession battle these two games. If we start with Memphis, you got your three best players showing up offensively, and your two best defenders showing up defensively in Herb and Missi. This is the first time Herb has had a shot blocker, a rim protector. And so and Missi has vamped up everyone's defensive activity. If you think about the Memphis game in particular, Zion had 3 stocks in that game. In the fourth quarter and clutch time, he jumped the pass to extend the lead from 120 to 117 late in the game. So you can feel the effort of them not turning the ball over. Missi and Zion being ending possessions with extra possessions on offense. And the wings, particularly in Trey and Sadiq, are shooting the cover off the basketball in this month. So, in particular, Sadiq and Trey combined for 68 points. So that's why I see where we're not playing negative players and you're playing positive players and you're getting positive results.
No, I mean that's a great way to put it. I think, look, first of all, there's a consideration for why didn't this happen earlier? Why wasn't there a change made at least to split up the rookies in the minutes? And look, we've talked about it before in this podcast. There is a strong suggestion from the front office on how they would like to see some of these rotations handled. And frankly, I side with the front office when the alternative is Jordan Poole, right? Like, you can't bench Fears and play Poole with how Poole's been playing and just how that whole Poole situation has been behind the scenes. Like, there's just no reason for that. So, in order for them to handle like moving off of Fears and bringing him to the bench, they need to bring in someone who has more sweat equity with the team, and just a greater cachet of like, hey, like, you know what, like if we bench him for this guy, that makes sense. It's not going to be it's you're not playing well enough thing. It's going to be this guy's just been around longer than you and is better than you right now type of thing. And that guy is Herb Jones, right? The Pelicans can go to Fears, be like, look, this guy is the leader of the team. They just extended him. He is a first team all defender, and we've been bleeding points defensively. It's not on you. We're trying something different. We're gonna go with this guy, and you're gonna get all of the backup point guard minutes, right? All of them. And I think that's a delicate situation to navigate, and I think the Pelicans handled it perfectly with regards to sticking with him while the alternative was Poole. And as soon as Herb became available, like they went in this direction. Now, secondly, going to your point, Jeremy, of playing non-negative players. Herb, we've talked about this multiple times in the podcast, is one of the most positive, impactful players, and has been for 5 years straight. You can look at the on-off data since Herb Jones was a rookie, which is highly unusual for rookie players. And the Pelicans have always been better when Herb is on compared to when Herb is off. And that's over 7,000 minutes. That's an insanely impressive accomplishment. And so, they're out there, they're running this Bayou version of the Houston Rockets, which, like we've talked about the build around Şengün, where you bring in these big wings, you try to become possession merchants. You're never going to be a good shooting team. Obviously, Trey and Bay have been shooting well, but you're never going to be a high volume shooting team. But can you force turnovers and live in the offensive glass? And to the Pelicans' credit, they have gotten 12 more effective shot attempts or true shot attempts than the Grizzlies, and they got 14 more than the Spurs. And so, like, and what I mean by true shot attempts is, like, when you look at the box score, you can sometimes see, well, this team took 80 shots, this team took 100. And that doesn't always tell the case, because sometimes there's a free throw discrepancy. So what I'm looking at is shot attempts, free throws, and turnovers. And you combine all those numbers, you see which team actually had more opportunities to score. And the Pelicans, if you win that by double digits, you have a great chance of winning the game. Now, yeah, go for it.
Well, one stat on that, I was just doing the math off the side. Bay, Zion, and Yves, over the last 2 games, 25 offensive rebounds. That's crazy. That's sustainable, probably not, but keep crashing. I mean, that's what they have to do.
25 might not be sustainable, but I've always envisioned, as Sumit talked about, a non-point guard lineup where you're just longer than everyone else on the court, and you can get deflections, you can crash the boards, you can get out in transition, because that's the best way for this team to score baskets. The half court is going to be probably Trey or Z getting downhill, but they are really, really effective in transition. Trey's, Zion, and Herb in particular. And if they miss, as a couple times Derek Queen missed in the Memphis game, someone's coming to crash the boards. They're not giving up on the possession, and it's an easy 2 points. Not allowing the defense to settle in the half court, because you have so much length to cause chaos defensively. And that's before we get to Yves just being a man child as of late.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Pelicans are now 7-0 in their last 7 games, where both Herb Jones and Saddiq Bey have played. If you just keep that to Herb Jones, and they're 6-1. They lost that game against the Lakers at home, where Saddiq Bey didn't play. But again, this is what we sort of envisioned with the Pelicans going into the season. Hey, if they can keep playing lineups that are theoretically going to be a plus out there, and minimize the lineups that are theoretically going to be a minus out there, they should be a roughly competent team. And tonight was a microcosm of that, where they got crushed in the Carlo Makovich minutes, right? They got crushed in the bench minutes. And part of that, the Spurs have a really good bench, but part of that is like guys like Carlo have just been not great. Like, not great for the Pelicans.
And if you look at the court, when Carlo and Yves play together, it is so compact, because if you shoot it, they're in the corners, and you penetrate, kick, you're passing it to Yves, or you pass it to Carlo, and the defense doesn't care. So
beyond that, it's the defense. The Carlo minutes in particular, anytime the Pelicans, when they lose their minutes, it's primarily because of the defense, right? Like they're either too small, or they can't rebound, or they don't provide resistance. And with Carlo, it's been all of that. And tonight he picked up 4 fouls in 7 minutes. And again, this is going to sound like I'm going in after Carlo. Like, the Carlo's not the singular problem. Like, the concept is good defensive player versus bad defensive players. And when you look at all of the, especially since Borrego took over, you look at all of their on-off metrics, and all of the guys that are big pluses are all the ones that can defend. And all the guys that are big minuses are the ones that cannot defend. And so, it seems pretty obvious there. But I got a question for you. Yeah.
How much that fair stat, but how much of that is just because the Pelicans they only have a few good defenders, right? Like, if that was flipped, right, and most of the Pelicans were good defenders, but only there were a few good offensive players, it stands to reason that the offensive players be the ones that are really generating that positive differential, because it's a scarcity. So I think it speaks to the fact that the Pelicans don't have many good defenders on the roster.
No, for sure. It 100% does. But, I think you'll find it surprising. Like, some of these offensive players that are supposed to be good offensively have been negative in terms of impact.
And that leads to transition buckets, because if you're missing at the rim, or you're missing long threes and his long kickouts, is easy transition buckets.
It's related, right? You can't guard. You're constantly going against a set defense. It's tough. But kind of scaling it back, just question for you guys. Like, so obviously, Borrego's still going with the hot hand, or the hot table, when it comes to the big man. Like, he finished with Queen the other night against Memphis, and that was great. And Yves didn't have his best game, even though he's been really, really good as of late. And then he finished with Yves tonight, while Queen spent a lot of the game in foul trouble and picked up a very costly tech about 5 minutes to go. And I agree with Queen. Like, the foul calls, some of the foul calls were. Oh, Jay, I know you want to talk about this.
I was just going to say, the refs are always tough on rookies, because I will say Dylan Harper was at the basket and he got mugged and he didn't get a foul as well. But the charge followed by the reaching that was ticky-tack, I understand Derek Queen's tired of getting rooked, especially as a big man. And some of these fouls, if he was more experienced, he wouldn't get it called. That being said, he can't do what he did to pick up that tech. Like, you just have to, you could talk shit to your teammates. You can't go back and run out on the court. He actually should be lucky he didn't get ejected, because he went back on the court and said something to the ref. And kudos to DeAndre and Jose. They're like, hey man, chill the fuck out. What's wrong with you? You in the wrong. You can't do that.
So shout out to my guy Nat, who covers the Hornets. He pointed out on Blue Sky that Greg Monroe, coach on the Pelicans, when that happened, you could like clearly see him as well. Like come on, man, like just like come on, man, like but yeah, really, really costly technical. But the Pelicans, at that point, immediately press the all wings plus Yves Missi button. And that's conceptually a similar button that they used to press when Larry Nance was around, right? You would have BI, Herb, Trey, Zion, Nance, or Najee would be in there, Dyson would be in there, like some combination. They'd never have all of them because someone was always hurt.
Because
But
the Pelicans.
yes, the Pelicans. But that was a like conceptually similar lineup that they would go to, where they didn't have a ton of shooting or a ton of like traditional size, but they were big positioning. They would switch everything. Pelicans did that. Spurs made the technical free throw. They went from 92 to 93 and then went scoreless for nearly 4 minutes of the entire clutch situation. Pelicans went on a 13-0 run until the Spurs, I think it was Castle, got a second chance point. But the game was over by then. My question for you guys in the face of all this is, like, from a team building perspective, like, it's clear having more size on the court works, and it works for Queen too. It's not just, like, it works with Eve. Where does that put you with regards to fears? And the bigger question is, where does that put you with regards to Ja Morant?
I think those are two different answers. With fears, I think we talked at the beginning of the season when we was assuming it was Jordan Poole, but fears coming off the bench, not dealing with starters from the word go, being able to see what's going on around him and just have the task of holding the line, even if you lose a couple minutes, is not detrimental, because hopefully the starters got you a lead and they could get it back just in, if things don't go well. As for Ja, that's an all NBA caliber player. And he has been an all NBA caliber player. And he's actually quietly a good rebounder, especially when he gives a damn. So I think that's a different conversation of, hey, here's this two-time All-Star, All-NBA player. We understand these wings are playing well. One of you is going to go on the bench. And more importantly, it's another positive player on the bench that takes minutes from a non-positive player.
Are we sure about that?
Yes. I'm being confident. If that happens, yes.
Where are you at on that, Mason?
I'm with Jay in that there are two different answers, but I think that's again, it's only because Fears is a rookie. I think that the Pelicans, they're leaning into the size has worked because it's the best option for them right now. I think that if you got a guy who can bend defenses and not be a Trae Young level defender, that's probably not fair to Fears, but like that's kind of the thought. There's like a smaller young guard who he's not mature or big enough to really defend at the NBA level yet, and defense or opposing offenses are going to pick on him. So that's just the tough reality right now. But I think it doesn't mean that has to be the case, for Fears in 2 years, right? Or a Ja Morant. And so I think the Pelicans are doing what they need to do right now to win games. And I mean, winning in San Antonio is not a fluke, right? Like it's not like a kid say, oh, well, these two games, they're representative. Like, sure, Memphis without, Ja that's not a good team, but the Spurs are a damn good team. And so I think it's something to test out further, but I'm not saying it's going to sway me on, the Pelicans don't need like just because a guy is smaller or a smaller league guard, it's not going to work. I'm not there yet.
I think the number one point that I resonate with, and it relates to this comment that I just had on the screen from my guy Reload, who says Ja is 61st percentile in EPM right now. For what it's worth, it's not black and white, but he's probably a positive-ish player at the moment. And I think the theory of that plus what Jay was mentioning with regards to, look, this is a guy like even at his worst year of his career is still like mildly like, he's like above league average. Um, you gotta think that there's a bounce back in there somewhere, right? There you're seeing that transpire in real time with Zion right now. He's played um 22 consecutive games now. Plays one more, he'll tie his second highest streak with at 23. Plays a few more. His longest streak is 25. And I know it's extremely important to Zion to reach 25, like or past 25, go beyond that. I that's something that it's a big reason why he played through those stomach issues the game against the Pistons, even though he had to check himself out of the game, like later. Like he's very bought in. He really wants to change the narrative around him in terms of like the work he's doing, his habits, and his ability to stay on the floor. Ja, on the other hand, again, has not played 6 consecutive games since 2023. His current streak is 2. He came back in London. They had a couple days off. They flew back to Memphis. They played, I think it was Atlanta. I'm not sure who they played. But they lost that.
It was Atlanta.
The Grizzlies lost that game. Ja had a pretty good one. I think he was like 25-10 or 24-10. And he diagnosed with an elbow strain of some sort that's going to keep him out for 3 weeks. So his streak is at 2. Now, it is trade deadline season. Sure, some of it is related to, hey, like we might be in discussions. It's probably best to keep you on the ice. But again, since 2023, he has not played six consecutive games. So you're making this trade with the thought of there is a better version of him in there. Do you guys think there's a better version of him in there, or where are you at with him on the risk?
I think there's a better version with him off the playmaking alone, of the playmaking and dribble penetration. He's still getting the spots. Like he still isn't taking, well, he takes those floaters because that's what he does, but he still gets the spots. He can't shoot. Like I would just try to, I wouldn't say give up on it, but I believe his desire to pull up 3 because, try to make the defense honor it. I just think they'll just turn around and give it to you and deal with it. But he still is a great playmaker. He still does, but the play he got hurt was a chase down block. So some athleticism is still there.
Oh, he's
so
bouncy.
He's still bouncy. He's still bouncy. He still can beat almost anybody off the
automatic paint touch.
The automatic paint touch. He still finds players. Still over 2 assist turnover ratio. So it's in there. That all-star caliber guy is still in there.
And to a degree, you got to believe that to go take on that salary. I know that it's not. It also includes the Pelicans ditching some salary that they're not thrilled about, but that's an extra year of a lot of money for Josh. So you got to believe that. And I think it's worth noting that I believe a lot of the Josh hasn't played 6 games in a row in a long time stuff it's a lot for a lot of similar reasons as Zion, as in the sense of the front office is being protective, right? It's not like he's gotten hurt super frequently. I mean, obviously he's not been a generally healthy player, right? But it's like he's getting a bunch of like nagging injuries, like in Anthony Davis. I think it's the front office wanting to make sure that, especially when Memphis is winning games, he's not taking any chances or not taking the unnecessary risk with him. And so that sounds like a recipe for disaster.
I want to push back on that.
But
I want to push back just a little bit because
so do I.
Memphis is done with him. Like, part of the reason they are done with him is because of this, right? It's like you're just not on the court enough for all the other stuff, all the extraneous stuff to be worth it, right? That's part of the trade-off. And I agree, like, even with Zion, yes, like Griffin them were overly protective of him. There were probably a number of games he could have played that, like he didn't play. But when the noise and the music were really loud on Zion and like the Pelicans were reaching the breaking point with him, it was because exactly that. You just aren't on the court enough for everything else, to be worth it.
And my homie Brian, shout out to him. He's a Grizzlies fan, and I'm gonna read what he texts me. Whenever Anthony Davis retires, he's got to pass that street clothes nickname to Ja like as a blunt.
Of course, I would name
AD. So yes, Grizzlies fans and front office are fed up with his inability to play games for the last 3 years.
I guess what I thought my mindset was generally the Grizzlies have been a better basketball team than the Pelicans. So the Grizzlies have had more of a reason to be careful with Ja because they want him to play deeper into the playoffs. Whereas the Pelicans, there hasn't been a lot of basketball reasons to think long term about how making a deep playoff run.
And that's more on Kleiman than Ja because he's constantly finding good players, capable players, draft in, draft out. No one cared about Cam Spencer. He's a good basketball player. Legit good basketball player. Cedric Howard's a good basketball player. When Zach Edey's available, he's just a rim deterrent within himself. So that's on Kleiman finding good players to maybe not have to worry about Ja. But going from a decent team to a great team is Ja Morant being available.
I remember all the narratives that not really narrative, but we heard all the time when Ja Morant was out, the Grizzlies would go on winning streaks, right? And so it was well, they better without Ja. Obviously, the answer is no, but no. That was definitely a thing for a while,
dating back to Tyus Jones.
Exactly, and Brandon Brandon Clark being healthy all the time. It's the erosion of talent, via injury. They haven't had Ty Jerome this year at all. The slow talent erosion due to injury, plus his inability, kills they're better without Ja. But also to be competitive time and again is still the credit to Kleiman finding players time in and time out.
Yeah, Kleiman, to my understanding, is just done. He's done. He sees the writing on the wall with this team. He saw it after the Grizzlies lost in the playoffs. He said, "We are nowhere close to competing." So I think Kleiman would love nothing but to pivot and just go into a full rebuild. We talked about it. Once you trade Desmond Bane, you're just setting up the dominoes for, we got some future picks from this other team. Well, this Ja stuff isn't working. Can we get some more stuff? Can we get salary flexibility? Can we get this? It's only a matter of time, Grizzlies fans. If there's any of you in here, I think by the end of this summer, the Grizzlies are going to look very, very different.
What's the to close out that thought? Forget the Pelicans for a second. What's the chances you think Ja's still on the Grizzlies post trade deadline?
None. I look, the word on the Grizzlies is this. They are posturing that, we'll keep him just like Golden State's posturing. We'll keep Kuminga. We'll do it. Don't threaten us. And the Grizzlies are trying desperately to move off him. To my understanding, he is not coming back. Look, I could be wrong. You can never say never in the NBA. Nothing is done until the paper is signed on the contract and the physicals are passed, right? We've seen trades get reversed because of failed physicals and for other reasons. But shout out David Stern. But to my understanding, the situation is really bad in Memphis. They want to move on. And because of that, they have no attractive offers on the table. Many of the teams that would, you would assume would be in the Ja Morant business are saving their assets. They're thinking, big fella in Milwaukee, he might be available. He might be available real soon. He's down with the calf, strain. Another one, something that's been, bothering him for going back to last year. But the Heat, Toronto, even a lot of these teams are trying to figure out, can they just save arrows and put them in the quiver for Giannis? That's kind of got the league on hold. Others just don't think Ja's an upgrade over their current guard situation, or they just don't want to get into the business of his contract, his injury history, and his off the court issues. So what that's left the Grizzlies is with very, very bad offers. I think we saw a suggested one from Scoop B today where the Pelicans have allegedly offered DeJounte Murray and Jordan Poole for Ja Morant and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. No picks. Scoop B said that the Grizzlies asked for a pick, and the Pelicans said no. And if any of that's true, like, what does that tell you guys about how the Pelicans might be handling this negotiation and where Ja's value is at the moment?
Yeah. I think that's the thing, that the latter is what I focus on. Like, if it's true, right, then that means the Grizzlies are self-aware enough to understand, like, that's the ceiling, right? Is like, if we get a pick, even a protected first round pick, that constitutes enough to get on. So like that more than anything shows me where his value is at. And even more, I'm just like, hold the line, like keep that offer. That's the offer, right? It's and look, we talked about it a little bit on the pod last time, so I won't rehash it. Like you mentioned that there's some good reasons for, Jordan Poole as a bigger expiring salary next year. And even like you can talk yourself into DeJounte Murray coming back and being a good player for you, right? And so it's not just like it's contracts, right? DeJounte Murray, you can say, all right, that's you could talk yourself, if you're Memphis, into that being neutral to Ja Morant. And so hold the line, like make that's the offer. Keep that as the offer. Maybe you end up winning the race to the bottom,
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think the Pelicans are very much interested in Ja Morant, especially at that price. I think the Pelicans would also love to not be able to give up a first round pick. I don't know like where negotiations are going to end up. I know, like, me personally, as long as that pick is protected, I'm fine with it. I think the major sell for the Grizzlies right now, that what they're trying to do is A, get off some long-term salary in KCP. B, it's mostly how can they position themselves to be players in some of the NBA shuffling of big contracts coming this summer. And teams that are smart, they especially in small markets, realize that like taking on longer term salary for picks is a great way to enter this rebuilding space, especially if some of these guys are playable salary that you can then just like flip later. And that's what like OKC did. They took Al Horford for a Philly pick, and then they flipped him again, right? And then they took a number of these vets and they would flip them again. And you kind of become this OKC, Sam Presti's the perfect example of turning a paperclip into a Ferrari, right? Like just continually trading that same thing. Washington's doing the exact same thing. The paperclip was Bradley Beal, and that was considered one of the worst contracts in the league, had a no trade clause. But because the Suns were absolutely obsessed with the idea of a big three, Washington got 4 swaps out of it, and then and they got Chris Paul, and they turned Chris Paul into Jordan Poole in a pick, and they turned Jordan Poole into CJ McCollum. They turned CJ McCollum into Trey. So like that's the kind of like smart transaction stuff that you want to do while you're going to be bad. The Pelicans, if they pull this off, they are going to have to manage their books. Like they are only a couple million under the tax right now. I think like 1 point something, or maybe even lower than that. And then next season, they have some wiggle room if they, if they opt out of Kevon Looney's contract, if they
go back in time and don't extend Jordan Hawkins' contract.
That one's tough. That $7 million is gonna
brutal.
It's brutal.
Brutal.
But look. But the thing is, here's the thing: is yes, it's brutal. But if you get into the Ja Morant business and you take care of your finances on the front end and you get yourself a couple billion under the tax, then that $7 million plus, if you have any other like these roundabout like players that are left on your roster after trades, like if it's KCP, for example, at 22 million, that's 29 million worth of expirings you can hopefully use to turn into playable players with longer term contracts. I saw our friend friend of the show, Keith Smith, list out Jared Allen as a top 15 worst contract in the league and nailed it entirely onto his extension, right? At $20 million a year, he's fine, but at $27 million a year, he's not providing the value. And Cleveland's in a situation where they are deep, deep, deep in the second apron. Evan Mobley's 30% max contract because he won Defensive Player of the Year is tough to build around because Donovan Mitchell is also on a max contract, and Darius Garland's also on he's on the rookie max contract, but he's still a max contract, right? Those things are really, really tough to build around, and they're just a mediocre team right now. And so this summer, if Cleveland gets to a spot where they're like, man, Donovan Mitchell's asked for a trade, and we got to go into rebuild, or we got to just shed a ton of money because the second apron penalties are going to kill us, then can you turn KCP's expiring and Jordan Hawkins is expiring into Jared Allen? Like, that's a question that I would have. And all of a sudden you got a core group of 25 to 27-year-old, 28-year-old players in Ja Morant, Zion Williamson, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, and Jared Allen. I think that's a really talented team. Then off the bench, you got Sadiq Bey, Jeremiah Fears, and Derek Queen, and however else you want to like round out the roster. That's where my head is at.
I mean, a lot of mental gymnastics for Jordan Hawkins, but no, the point. The point is very fair. I'm just not over the needless addition of $7 million to the books. But yeah, you're right.
Are there configurations? Let's forget about the summer. Are there configurations, multi-team configurations this year involving Jordan Poole, DeJounte Murray outgoing with the contracts of Ja Morant and KCP coming back? But can you get a third team involved that could maybe make the deal easier for Memphis or change things up?
Hey, Golden State, y'all tired of having Jonathan Kuminga, right?
What's the deal?
The deal is start flipping KCP's deal and giving it to Golden State and taking on Kuminga. So in that way, even if you don't get the Jared Allen, or if Cleveland says, okay, we'll take on Kuminga's expiring contract, you opt into him and you can flip him for Jared Allen that way. If not, you have an expiring contract on your hands because it's a team option. So in that aspect, you're setting
I think he has that implied no trade clause, right?
No, he has the implied the
they had him waive it. They had him
waive it to sign the extension.
He had to agree to waive it.
Yeah. So you telling them, hey, in the summer, you're only getting paid if you're going to, where we're sending you, or you're getting cut. We're just going to decline the team option. So, yeah, you're fed up with Kuminga. That's fine. If I'm taking Kuminga on as an expiring contract on a team with no expectations, why not? Because I know, KCP, long tenure veteran, good dude, won a couple titles. The sun's getting low.
KCP is still clutch.
Who? KCP?
KCP.
I know he ain't clutch. I look at them jumpers. Oh, you mean?
Who is he? I thought he'd left. But,
okay, I don't remember. I know he was at one point.
Anyways, I think. Wait, Mason, do you have any ideas of a third team before I go in?
No, you go.
So I think this is a good time to talk about tie in the other trade rumors. Namely Yves Missi, and bring in the Chicago Bulls, because there has been a rumor now reported by a number of different reporters that the Chicago Bulls are into Yves Missi, amongst teams such as the Raptors and the Pacers and the Lakers, who have expressed interest in Yves, but the Chicago Bulls being one of them. And the Chicago Bulls briefly also got linked to Zion, right, in the recent weeks. And so the Zion stuff, I would say, is not worth paying attention to. I have good sources on both the Pelicans and the Chicago side. I don't think there's Zion stuff in the works, especially right now. I'm sure those teams talked about it at a certain point. There might be dialogue in the future. Would be shocked if Zion is anything but a Pelican past this deadline. But Yves Missi, Chicago has a lot of expiring salaries. Vucevic is an expiring salary. Kevin Huerter is an expiring salary. Zach Collins is expiring salary. Kobe White is an expiring salary. I'd consider all those guys playable players, but they also help a team like Memphis maybe clear the books sooner rather than later. Would you guys entertain using Missi to dump a pool and take an expiring from Chicago to send it to Memphis in this configuration?
No. Not.
You don't want to go on the Vooch train?
I mean, which would he come into the Pelicans? He'd be going to Memphis.
Memphis, hey, you don't, hey.
Vucci, man.
Vucci, man, I got a soft space in my heart for Vucci, man, bro. Yo, you should have seen all the fake trades I put in before he got sent to Chicago. It's soft space in my heart.
Yeah, I mean, so what you're saying is like dump Yves to exchange Jordan Poole for an expiring instead.
Yeah. Like let's say the hurdle, if Memphis says, look, we want a first round pick or to basically take on Poole, or you find us a way to get us an expiring. And if those are your two options, are you sending the first round pick, the protected one, with Poole and just getting the trade done? Or you're like, okay, we know we can dump Poole to Chicago with Yves and take those expirings and send them to Memphis. Like hypothetical.
So Yves is basically replacing your pick.
Yeah. Correct.
Man.
If so it's a you're saying lotto protected first and immediately converts to 2 seconds. That's the scenario here.
Sure. Let's say that's what that is.
I'd probably give away the first. And I say that as a person who has said, this isn't. They didn't select Yves, so I wouldn't be shocked if I wouldn't be shocked if he leaves. It shouldn't have deterred him, but they also are seeing the play on the court, and they want to win, and they see he's been a winning player. So I probably do the pick and lotto protect it, turn in 2 seconds, and keep Yves.
I would too. I mean, I'm not doing. I don't. Either one is like I might be hanging up the phone on if that's what it takes to get Ja, just because I feel like the Pelicans are going to play themselves in this one, and no one's going to have any deal remotely as good. Man. But I don't know. Like it's the couple of things that I was wary about with Yves heading into the season was rebounding and defense. As far as like, is the defense more just like can be a shot blocker, but not really an impactful defensive player? And he's really started to flip the script on both of those things so far this year. And so I maybe I'm missing out on the time to sell when it's highest, but that's still the value still there is not very high for me. And so I think I would do the protected first over Yves.
So if I'm hearing both of you right, if someone offers you a protected first for Yves, a lot of protected first, you are turning that trade down.
Oh, so this is the Pelicans pick. This is the Pelicans pick, though.
Because lotto protected.
I'm trading 2 seconds. Pelicans ain't making the playoffs.
Okay, well, here's a more real scenario for you. The Raptors. Let's say they offer you salary. Let's say that salary is Grady Dick. And I count that as salary because he has thus far been a similar tier player to Jordan Hawkins when it comes to like his efficiency and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Although his plus minus has been like way better than Hawkins. Some of that may just be a product of the team that he's on. I haven't dug into it. I can't pretend to know. I am an expert on Grady Dick, but let's assume it's Grady Dick. Or let's say it's Jonathan Mobo, something very small, or who's the other guy on their team right now that Ochai Abaji, right? Like, let's say maybe it's that salary, whatever. Random salary, small salary, and their current pick, which is slated to be 19th. And let's say it is 19th. They offer you that in 19 for Yves. What do you say?
So this is different questions in my opinion. If I'm not, I thought the first scenario was trading a protected first round pick or Yves being similar value. If it's grabbing someone else's first for Yves in a separate transaction, I'd probably take the pick.
Yeah, Yeah. Go. No, sorry.
I'll probably take the pick. If I'm gaining at a side transaction, I'll probably take the pick and have a backup big because I'm still trying to develop a Queen, still trying to develop Carlo. If I get a draft asset out this deal, I may be at its highest. Or maybe, with someone brought up Jackson Hayes in the past in that 22 season where he played himself out of getting traded.
Mason?
Yeah, I mean it's a different question because it's not the Pelicans pick; it's someone else's pick. I think the Raptors is a very interesting one because they're 10 games over 500 right now. I'm not sure if I buy that lasting, and so that's like one of the teams where you could sell me the pick becomes like, the 15th pick or the 16th pick, and that is intriguing to me. So I'm having a hard time answering. I'm not sure. It's a good hypothetical. But there are a lot of teams, like if you're saying it's going to be the 25th pick, 26th pick, I'm like, nah, I'm hanging up that phone. But like if the Raptors are a very unique case, and I think
let's say specifically 19. Like it's only 19. I'm trying to figure out where. So the purpose of this
trying to set a bar. Trying to set a bar.
Yeah, where's the bar for you guys with regards to Yves Missi and where you think his value's at?
I think his value is a first round pick.
Sure, I'm asking.
I think Mason and Nahe are the same thought process. If you told me 15 and 19 is probably where I will go to trade him, I think no doubt. Like
this is deal or no deal. You got 5 seconds to answer. Deal or no deal. I'm
offering. Hey, banker, go to commercial. Nah, I think a surefire playoff team. No, I don't want the 28, 29th pick. Don't want the 23rd pick. I think possibly lotto to 19. Yes. Hey, you see me trying to trade for Dick is real hard, right? This is some stiff competition I'm dealing with with my co-host.
All right. Yeah, I think I would. I mean, the other X factor is the Pelicans. The front office, the one thing they seem to be able to do well is draft. And if you were talking about the 2026 draft, I think I'm doing that. I
would accept 19. I would not hesitate. Now, it's a good jumping point to get into Ben Mathurin. There was some Ben Mathurin rumors. We've talked about them briefly in the past. That's always been a trade that's kind of made sense on the surface, where the Pacers are one of the teams looking for a starting center. They are right up there next to the tax and cannot afford to pay Ben Mathurin, who is a pending restricted free agent. And so the idea is, hey, we'll trade our former lottery pick for your young promising center. What do you think?
No.
Why no?
Because I don't want another inefficient guard that they're going to talk themselves into paying. And John just pointed it out. His advanced stats says he's Jordan Poole. And I even tried to talk myself into a Ben Mathurin trade. And I'm a big assist turnover guy. Like value in the basketball is something that I value a great deal. And not just his shooting percentages, his inability to get to the rim, his shooting percentages are below league average. He doesn't play make, and he turns the ball over. Right now, he has 52 assists and 57 turnovers. And I would not want to deal with a player who can't take care of the basketball. As we just talked about, the wings' ability to in possessions well by not turning it over. I just couldn't deal with it.
Mason?
Yeah, I'm not interested. I think Jay hit a lot of it. I feel like I don't really want to jump ship on a guy who I think is ascending right now. And there's nothing like what about Ben Mathurin has created meaningful trade value for him? Like in the way he's played. I don't see it. I mean, there's a different question between that and like, would I be willing to take a flyer on Mathurin? But like, I'm not trading anything of value for him. Like, I think it's still early to call him Jordan Poole, but I don't see. I wouldn't trade those two players for each other.
So I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate, but before I do that, to Jay's point, for his career, he has 423 assists and 441 turnovers, more turnovers than assists
Not
for
gonna
his
be able to
career.
do it. Not gonna be able to do it.
Not a anomalous thing this season. It is for his whole career. So the devil's advocate on Mathurin is that he is a restricted free agent. You are a team with very limited space. So because of your proximity to the tax, you're just going to be limited outright to how much you can even pay him without making other moves. So some of the negotiation is done for you. A lot of the other negotiations done for you because of the teams out there that are going to have cap space, and there's not that many of them, right? Obviously, there's the Washington Wizards of the world, but something tells me that the team that drafted Trey Johnson has Trae Young has no interest in sending the bag for Ben Mathurin. But I think the Pelicans, if they do nothing, if they don't do the Ja Morant stuff, if they only make moves around the edges, Jose Looney, that kind of stuff, they can get up to 13-ish to 14 million under the tax line this coming summer, right? Which is basically MLE level, right? And so if you can go to Mathurin and be like, hey, here's a deal that is like 5% higher than the MLE for like 2 or 3 years, take it. You bring him into a system where he's asked only to be a play finisher. And he's asked only to take a lot of threes, and he's only asked to play in transition and play above the rim. Is there untapped upside there? I think that is a question worth asking. Personally, I don't think the effort for all of that is worth it with regards to like what's being given up in Yves. Because at the end of the day, he is a guy where he's going to disrupt the flow of your offense because of his shot selection and his desire to have shots in the first place. He has been a woeful defender his whole career. He does rebound. He does get to the free throw line, but it's telling that in deep playoff runs, Rick Carlisle chooses to go with Ben Shepherd over Ben Mathurin, or even go with TJ McConnell over Ben Mathurin. And I think the Pelicans, we just spent the first portion of the pod talking about how they got all these bring your lunch pail to work type of guys, these hard hat guys in their big scrappy lineup, fighting for offensive rebounds, swarming on defense. And like, who is the antithesis of that? Jordan Poole was the antithesis of that. He got 0 minutes, in this game. Ben Mathurin, in a lot of ways, is the antithesis of that. I've also, spoken to people around the league, and they don't have a very high opinion of Mathurin in that he is a player at this stage who believes he is a lot better than the value that he provides to a team. And I think there are worlds where he ends up on his J.R. Smith arc or his Malik Beasley on the Pistons arc. But I think the next team he ends up on, he's far more likely to be Malik Beasley on the Wolves, who wasn't all that good. So like, I think sometimes these players have to, like Tim Hardaway Jr., like, again, he ended up on the Pistons. He kind of redeemed himself. His contract started going down. He ended up on the Nuggets. He's pretty good. He's more willing to do some of that dirty work. These players who are score first, sometimes they need a couple stops to realize, hey, we got to like start providing value on defense.
Yeah, I'd rather take you as the guy who is on his last shot in the league than take you as the second contract trying to find the untapped potential. It's a completely different situation, but I could just understand, when you listen to Sadiq speak on these post games, you can tell how precious he understands this career is. And I don't want to say, about the injuries or anything. I don't want that. But maybe somebody played Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley, those guys who, hey, shit about to hit the fan if I don't change the way I think about playing in this league. And I would rather that guy, Aaron Nesmith, having a come to Jesus moment after the Celtics got rid of him. You need to have that fork in the road and then make the decision. Now I'd rather have him then.
Yeah. I think, everyone's got different philosophies on basketball.
Nikhil. I mean,
yeah, Nikhil. I think
Another great
that-
example.
Yeah, I think that you got to be able to take high upside swings in this market. Like in New Orleans, like you got to do that. That's why I'm all behind the Ja Morant trade, right? Always behind the Boogie trade. Was always like, you know what? I don't care about Trae Young as deficiencies. Go get that guy, right? I don't think Ben Mathurin falls under the same bucket of swinging on upside. I think the smart swing on upsides are finding the young players or the guys who are distressed assets or down values for whatever reason, injuries, tax situations, whatever, and finding the ones that consistently have an outside impact on winning, on the plus minus, on do they just win their minutes at the end of the day. Ja Morant has obviously done that at a high level. It isn't doing that this season, discounted price. Darius Garland has been a guy who's had top 15, top 10 level impact because of how good his offense is. He's a guy that, we've all been fans of him on this podcast. Ben Mathurin does not win his minutes, right? So I'll read you his on-offs from his rookie year till this year, right? Rookie year, the pace, his on-off was negative 2.5. This is points per 100 possessions, by the way. His second year, it was minus 8.7, which is insanely bad. His third year, it was plus 0.9. And this was the year the Pacers made the finals and had a crazy team, crazy good team, and incredible team context. This year, minus 5.8. Flash forward to the playoffs. His entire playoff run in 24-25, 22 games played, minus 14.8 on off. This is a guy that just has not moved the needle on winning, and I'm just out on players who don't move the needle on winning. That's my personal philosophy, and I know not everyone sees it that way, and I understand there's a lot of merit towards there's talent. You can make shots, you can get hot, and he does. I really do think there is a world where he is on that J.R. Smith arc, and you're J.R. Smith in Cleveland. That was a dude, man. That was a dude that swung playoff series. Obviously, we know the game that LeBron had 50 and JR didn't get it. We understand J.R. Smith. We understand. That was a dude, right? Like Jordan Poole on the Warriors where everything was controlled for him. He was a dude, right? Some of these dudes require the right context. I don't have faith the Pelicans can find that context. I just don't.
Yeah, and lastly, the franchise who loves nothing more than to find the second contract guy when it comes to recently Oladipo, Hallie,
Brogdon, Sabonis.
Sabonis. These guys, they are trying to, Neesmith we talk about, seeing that, that Pascal was a distressed asset. Obi Toppin. They keep finding these guys, right? TJ McConnell, because he was a Sixer initially. They keep finding these guys. And outside of Goga Batati, when they get rid of guys, it doesn't really hit. And that's the team that wants to get rid of this former high lottery pick. It's going to be a no for me, though.
It's a great point about Indy. Not the team you may intuitively think about as the second contract team, but yeah, that's a if they're the ones trying to dump them, it's probably you're probably the one that's that's in the wrong.
As there'll be a rumor for trying to get a second contract guy.
Yeah, sometimes you just got
as they're trying to get Missi.
Yeah, sometimes you have to have a surplus at a certain position, right? And then it just makes sense for that reason. And so you could argue with the Pacers, maybe that's part of it, but not combining that and the numbers that Schmidt rolled off. Nah.
Yeah. I mean, in theory, they could use a guy like Ben. Every team could, right? In theory, this is a 6'5", 6'6" athlete. Again, plays above the rim. Can get his shot off on the move efficiently, but theory is theory right now. Let's move on away from Mathurin. Last guy on our stream. By the way, thank you, Twinkie. Yes, please like the stream. Yes, like the stream, please. Hit the subscribe button if you can.
Like
It helps us up.
Like the stream.
Yeah.
Like the stream.
But another guy also in trade rumors who made his return today, Jose Alvarado, has been linked to the New York Knicks and a couple other teams like Minnesota and some teams that are searching for backup point guard help. Where are you guys at on Jose and how that needs to, or how the Pelicans should navigate that space?
I'm pretty passionate that they shouldn't trade him unless they go get Ja. Like those two things are tightly linked for me. I don't think the value. I don't think the value is there for trading Jose compared to what. Like he's a culture guy. Like I really feel like this team, this city loves Jose. He's a positive impact player for the team, generally speaking. I just don't. I don't see why you'd move him for a couple of seconds unless you don't have the minutes for him. And I think that's, and if they trade for Ja between Ja and Fears, you want Fears getting minutes still. And then that Jose is just the odd man out, in my opinion. And so otherwise, I mean, I have to see the offer, obviously. Like I'll never say never, but I think those two things are connected for me.
Pretty much agree with Mason there. Like if you're getting a creator, a stabilizer, then I will move on from Jose. If you're not, he still plays well off all your players. He's still, you're hearing everyone in the arena. I don't know if you heard this. After he made a basket, after a rebound, the entire arena is screaming to Dylan Harper, "Watch out for Jose!" because he's trying to get another GTA. Like he's a positive winning basketball player. And unless look, you're getting, go ahead.
No, sorry.
I was just saying that unless you get another, on-ball creator who is going to eat into those minutes anyway, and you have Fears playing this 20, and there's just no room for me, you could find something, then I would rather keep him.
So I've looked at the Knicks books and like players that they could trade. That would make sense. And first of all, as an aside, here's my advice to everybody who wants to create content regarding the NBA or cover the NBA or even just be involved with the team in any capacity or an agency. Learn the CBA. Learn the CBA. There is no more useful thing for you to learn. It is the language of the NBA, and it will give you the gift of prophecy. You just look at teams' books and you can tell what they're about to do. I can take a look at the Raptors. They are $800K over the tax. They're going to make a salary dump move. Sources, I don't need sources to say that, right? Like the Knicks, the Knicks are over the first apron and they're right up against the second apron. They are going to want to make a move that gets them underneath, like not underneath the first apron, but if they can, of course they will, but they're going to want to lower that overall salary obligation and that payment. It also, because they're over the first apron, there's only certain styles of moves they can do, right? They can't take more money back than they can send out. So when you look at their books and you try to do like a 1-for-1 Jose trade, it's Yabusele. It's Yabusele, who's like 5.6 million, 5.7 million option next year. I think it's a player option. I think, or is it already guaranteed?
It's a player. It's a player.
Okay, player option. So he's going to pick that up. And they don't have a tradable first, I don't think. And I think, well, the Washington first, which is a fake first and turns into seconds, right? The Washington, if it's 8 or worse, it goes to Washington. 9 or better, I think it goes to the Knicks. And Washington is the worst team in the league right now. And so if they stay on course to be the worst team in the league, the worst they can be is 5. So that pick is not leaving Washington, and it's going to turn into some seconds. So I think that's one they can trade. So it effectively, if it was a 1-for-1 trade, it'd be Yabusele and seconds for Jose Alvarado. And I think regardless of who's on the roster, that just seems unappealing to me.
Yes.
The trade that intrigues me far more would be, because the Knicks were a team that were mentioned for Yves Missi, would be if you were to do a combination of Looney, Jose, and Missi for Mitch and Yabusele and something like that, or Mitch and some salaries. Where would you guys land on that? And then to provide perspective, Mitch, he's in his final year of his contract, will be a free agent, unrestricted free agent this summer. Obviously, another guy, ton of injury issues, can't stay on the court, but when he does, insanely impactful player. But where would you guys fall on that? Would you try to keep, if you do want to do it, would you try to keep Mitch? What would you pay him? Just yeah, like where would you guys be on that?
You hit me right, the Time Lords, and I don't like that one bit. You know, I love nothing more than a big who can screen, roll, dive, get rebounds, and play defense. So, of course, if you told me that if I could get Mitchell Robinson, he comes home, I would look into that deal because I think on the hoop. No, it was Zach Lowe saying that he no longer tries to block shots. He plays great defense, and he's another one of these guys that JB is falling in love with. These scrappy, big, burly continuous or possession enders that I would just love to just see him just. It's getting kind of erotic. Tussle and with
Calm down, bro.
tussle with people. Yes, give me Mitchell Robinson.
Give me the trade once more.
The trade, let's say it's Alvarado, Missi, and Looney for Mitchell Robinson and Yabusele.
No, I'm not. I'm on the other side of the fence on this one. I'm not doing that. It's just you're trading for the right to pay a very, very injured big his next deal, and you're giving up Eve to do it. And that's not. I mean, I think the fundamental question is how much more than the MLE is he getting? Would he get? On the market, given how unhealthy he's been.
He shouldn't get more than that, right? Like, hold on, let me pull up the Steven Adams deal because I think that is probably the best
Off
comp.
my head is 2 years, 21 million,
339, and it goes 14, 13, 11. It declines.
Okay,
so 9% cap hit, 7%, 6%, or I guess 7.8, 6.8. So you can round that up. That would be the high end for me. For him, I would want injury protections put in the contract. I would want there to be team options somewhere in there. I would want all the bells and whistles that would protect you. I would do it because Mitch is the singular best offensive rebounding force in the league outside of Steven Adams and can single-handedly flip a game or multiple games for you because of that. And it's potentially what you're giving up in Eve as well, because Eve is turning into one of the league's premier offensive rebounder. So I would do it because I think, again, Mitch is a guy that wins his minutes at a high level, and he's a good defensive rebounder too. I think he allows you to then take some of that other salary. Let's say it's a KCP that you've held on to, or maybe it's still Poole or DeJounte, whatever that other salary is, allows you to go in a completely different direction and not be locked into 4 years with Jared Allen or another big.
yes.
And you can still do the yin and yang of Queen and Mitch, play them together. I would do it for Mitch specifically. I would do it. But I would need, like, before you do it, I would need a conversation with his agent and already know what that next deal is going to look like.
You can't be a flight risk. We're basically trading. This is your free agency. We're agreeing to some type of deal with injury protections. Yeah, that's how I do it.
Yeah, he's a local guy too. So I mean, that's always
good
a fun
and bad for
wrinkle.
different reasons.
Yeah, fair, very fair. But yeah, I know. I'm just not if he was healthier, we wouldn't be having this conversation right in the first place. So you're taking a distressed asset. But if I could. If it was Jose, if Jose was a cost and a little bit more, then I'm definitely thinking about it and probably doing it. Yves is a bridge too far at this point for me, just because of the lack of certainty I have about Mitch even being on the floor.
Wait, but hear this stat, please.
Go ahead.
He plays 19 and a half minutes per game, and he leads the league in offensive rebounds per game at 4.9
That's
offensive
insane.
rebounds per game. That is Mitch
That's
Robinson.
Insane. That is nuts.
And that's not the only time. In 2022 and 23, he also led the league in offensive rebounds per game at 4.5 per game. He's had this is his fourth season averaging over 4 offensive rebounds per game. And he's had multiple seasons over 3. Yeah, like I said, unbelievable offensive rebound force. He's averaging 9 rebounds in 19 minutes this season. I would do it, man.
And that's with Josh Hart trying to steal every rebound he takes.
That's so true. Also, like,
go ahead.
In theory, if you have a Ja Morant and if you have a Zion Williamson, those guys are gonna miss a shit ton of looks at the rim. Ja Morant had his best season with Steven Adams. Zion had his best season with Steven Adams. That's all I gotta say.
Can I just read you this stat?
Yeah.
Mitchell Robinson has a 24.5 defensive rebound rate, which is pretty good. He has a 26.8 offensive rebound rate.
He's broken, dude. He is absolutely broken. And he only
how many players in history have a higher offensive rebound rate?
Jesus
rebound
and a 53% free throw rate. Like, this dude is just crazy for a man child when he's in the paint.
Well, with his free throws, though, he's shooting 37% from the line.
Hey, we are talking about the positives. We're talking about the positives here.
Okay. Hack him.
Was that his free throw rate or free throw percentage?
Free throw rate. I don't know. He might have said
the rate's higher than the percentage.
The rate's higher than the percentage. Hey. DeAndre versus Mitch in the free throw contest.
No. They should sell tickets to that. Like,
I would go. I swear, I would go.
The Pelicans open practice before the season starts. They had they sell out the free. They do the little layup drills and then they make the rookies dance. And nobody wants to watch those layup drills, man. Just they would much rather watch the free throw contest and have the bigs just go 1-on-1. Like, throw in Looney, I mean, obviously Looney won't be on the team in this scenario, but DeAndre Jordan, Mitch, just bring out all the dudes that don't get minutes and have them go through a skills contest. I could be into it. Any we've gone on for an hour and 12. I think we should start wrapping it up.
Yeah.
There was a note about this game that I wanted to hit. So I want to bring the conversation back to tonight's game. The San Antonio Spurs, they started the game off with Wemby guarding Zion Williamson in that first quarter. Zion was playing a lot off the ball. The Pelicans were trying to do the Queen Hub stuff to start the game with their wings. And then I thought this was some real hoops being played by both teams. The Pelicans were like, okay, if you're going to put Zion or Wemby on Zion, clearly we can't have Zion off the ball. So when Zion got out there in his next substitution pattern, it was immediately all Zion on the ball, right? So Zion goes out there and literally makes Wemby look like he's stuck in mud for multiple possessions in a row. Just ISO, had a monster dunk off an ISO on him. And the Spurs coach, the other Mitch, he's like, okay, well, this isn't working. We got to put Wemby on literally anybody else. And so they chose Missi, they chose Queen, whatever the big man. Yeah, Micah.
Micah is 1.2, yeah.
Yeah, but when they first did Missi, it was hilarious because Borrego was like, oh, all right, what we're gonna do is have Zion on this side of the court and then Missi on this side of the court with Trey, run a handoff for Trey. Wemby's got to pick who does he want to guard Zion with the ball. Yes. And then they ran Trey off that off-ball screen, boom, open three. And it's just like this chess match was hilarious because after that, it became, okay, well, we're going to do Zion back off the ball and then setting screens for the shooters. So it was just this back and forth. And I thought that's just something you didn't see under Willie of micro adjustments within a quarter, within a game of like, oh, this is a counter you're throwing. This is a counter that I'm throwing.
And they continued into the third quarter. Not just put it as Borrego is using Wemby's defensive greatness against him. Every time that that Wemby will try to make a switch, so he's on the weak side to get blocks, they would attack that, put that person in motion. So Wemby also is now at the nail instead of being at the being the low man. Every time they try to put Zion on, like you said, okay, we're getting the ball to Zion. They would use San Antonio loves to have their wings press because they know they got Wemby, behind them. Let's make Wemby be the on-ball guy. So make him make decisions, and then the small people can't defend the way they want to. I thought it was masterful for those 2.5 quarters.
Fun basketball. I enjoy talking about fun basketball. I don't know about you guys.
And they've had fun basketball for the last 96 minutes. It has been glorious to watch.
Yeah. All right. I think it's a good place to cap it. We covered a lot of ground here. Jade, take us home, baby.
Appreciate all you guys who came post game. It was 129 at one point live with us, and we definitely appreciate y'all. Like the stream. We can't talk with that word. Like the stream. Share the stream. If you miss it live, we're going to have it on our pages and the podcast for the audio people. You're going to miss the facial expressions, but they'll be out probably tomorrow morning. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Shout out to my internet. Staying up the whole time. Be easy.
Subscribe to the channel.
Get us 1,000 subscriptions.